The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland of Chorus 9. The planet was nothing but ice, stone, and silence. Lieutenant Ryan Hale trudged forward through the storm, his breath fogging the inside of his cracked helmet. The snow stung his face and his boots sank deep into the frozen crust with every step. His scanner beeped faintly, showing a small energy reading ahead. That was strange. No one was supposed to be alive out here. He followed the signal until he saw the remains of a destroyed alien outpost. Half of it was buried under ice. The metal walls were twisted and blackened, the roof collapsed. Ryan gripped his pulse rifle and entered slowly. His boots echoed through the long, empty corridor. The lights flickered weakly, some still trying to come alive even after the attack. He searched room after room but found nothing, only dust, frozen panels, and silent machines. Then he heard it, a soft metallic clink like chains moving. He froze and listened again. The sound came from the far end of the hall. He followed it cautiously, gun ready, every sense alert. When he reached the final door, it was half open and blocked by debris. Ryan pushed it aside and stepped inside. The room was small and cold. Broken equipment lay scattered across the floor. In the corner stood a cage, old, rusted, and covered in frost. Inside that cage, something moved. Ryan pointed his light and saw her. It was a woman, or at least she looked like one. Her skin was pale blue and faintly glowing in the darkness. Her hair was white like snow, long and tangled. She was curled up tightly, shivering violently. Thin chains wrapped around her wrists and ankles. She didn't even look up when he entered. Ryan lowered his weapon slowly. "Hey," he said quietly through his helmet speaker. "I'm not here to hurt you." No response. She kept trembling, her head buried in her arms. Her body was so thin he could see the faint outlines of her bones through her skin. It looked like she hadn't eaten or slept in days. Ryan crouched near the cage. The lock was an alien design, glowing faint red with words his translator couldn't fully decode. It said something about containment and danger. He sighed. "Figures," he muttered. Always the hard way. He could walk away. The smart thing would be to call command and report it. But something inside him twisted at the sight of her. She wasn't a threat. She was suffering. She looked like someone who had given up a long time ago. He took out his multi-tool and began to cut through the lock. Sparks flew as metal hissed. The woman flinched at the noise but still didn't move away. After a minute, the lock broke apart. The cage door creaked open with a long, tired sound. Ryan slowly reached out his hand. "You're free now," he said softly. For a long time, nothing happened. Then slowly she lifted her head. Her eyes met his, large, silver, and full of fear. She looked at his gloved hand, hesitated, and then crawled forward weakly. When she reached him, she collapsed against his chest. Her skin was ice cold. Ryan caught her quickly, supporting her light body with his arms. He could feel her trembling even through his armor. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're safe," she didn't answer. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. Ryan wrapped his survival cloak around her to keep her warm. He tapped his communicator. "This is Lieutenant Hale. I've got a survivor." "Preparing for evac," Static answered him. The storm was interfering with his signal. He sighed, lifted her in his arms, and began the long walk back to his ship. The wind howled around them, but he held her tightly. Her fingers clutched at his armor weakly as if afraid he would vanish. After nearly an hour, he reached his ship, the Endeavor. It was small but strong enough to survive the storm. He placed her gently on the medical bed and removed his helmet. The air hissed inside as he breathed freely again. The ship's AI scanned her immediately. "Unknown species detected," the robotic voice said. "Severe hypothermia, dehydration, and malnutrition. Recommend immediate treatment." Ryan began to work fast, giving her water through a small dropper and covering her with thermal sheets. Slowly, her breathing steadied. She looked around the room, confused and weak. He could tell she didn't understand much of what was happening. He gave her a gentle smile. "You're safe here." "My name's Ryan." She blinked slowly, trying to form words. Ryan," she repeated, her voice quiet and strange, like music underwater. "That's right," he said. "What's your name?" She hesitated, as if searching her memory. "Elira," she whispered finally. Ryan nodded. "Nice to meet you, Elira. You're going to be okay." Her eyes softened for a moment before closing again. She fell asleep, breathing faintly but peacefully. Ryan sat beside her for hours, checking the readings and watching the storm fade through the window. He had no idea who she was, but something told him she didn't belong to the people who built that cage. When he finally checked the data drives he had collected from the outpost, his hands went cold. The files mentioned Project Ilarin, a Dominion experiment to create living energy conductors. The description matched her perfectly. The note said all subjects had been destroyed during the evacuation. All but one. So she wasn't just a survivor. She was supposed to be a weapon. Ryan closed the file and looked at her sleeping form. She didn't look like a weapon. She looked like someone who had suffered far too much. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. "Well," he muttered, "looks like I just adopted a galactic secret." The next morning, she woke up slowly. Her silver eyes watched him carefully. She looked frightened, unsure if he was real. He gave her a soft smile. "Morning. Feeling better?" She nodded slightly, though her voice trembled. "You helped me." "Yeah," he said. "You were freezing out there." She looked down at her hands, staring at the faint glowing veins that pulsed with soft blue light. "They said I was dangerous," she whispered. "They said I should not exist," Ryan frowned. "Who said that?" "The Dominion," she said. "They made me. Then they locked me away when I failed their tests." Ryan felt anger rise in his chest. "Failed? You're alive." "That's all that matters." She looked up at him, confused. "You don't fear me?" He shook his head. "You're not my enemy." For the first time she smiled faintly, though it was small and unsure. "Then, maybe I can trust you." Before Ryan could respond, the ship's alarm blared. The AI's voice filled the cabin. "Warning, incoming Dominion patrol detected. 3 drones approaching fast." Ryan cursed and ran to the controls. Of course they'd come now. He turned to Alara. "Stay down. They're scanning for survivors." Her expression turned fearful again. "They will find me." "They always find me." "Not this time," he said firmly. He activated the ship's stealth shields, lowering the Endeavor beneath the thick layers of ice. The engines hummed quietly as they hid in the frozen caves below. The scanners showed the drones circling above like vultures. Inside, Illyra sat silently, hugging her knees. Ryan glanced back at her. "We'll get through this. I promise." She looked at him for a long moment, then asked, "Why do you help me?" Ryan took a deep breath. "Because no one deserves to live in a cage. And because if I were the one trapped, I'd want someone to open the door." For a second, neither of them spoke. Then Illyra's eyes softened and she whispered, "Thank you." The silence was broken by the sound of an explosion. The drones had fired a probe into the ice, detecting a power reading. Ryan grabbed the controls again. "Hold on!" The Endeavor burst from beneath the ice, engines blazing. The drones locked on immediately, firing bright beams of plasma. Ryan twisted the ship sharply, dodging through the icy canyons. The hull shook under the pressure. Illyra's hands began to glow brighter, her markings pulsing with light. "I can help," she said, her voice trembling. "Stay down." "You're too weak," Ryan warned. She shook her head. "No, I was made for this." Before he could stop her, she pressed her hands to the floor. A wave of blue energy surged through the ship, spreading like lightning across the walls. The sky outside exploded in a storm of electric light. The drone's sensors went wild, their circuits overloading. One by one, they crashed into the ice below. Ryan's eyes widened. "You did that?" Illyra looked terrified of herself. "I didn't mean to. It happens when I'm scared." He stared at her for a long moment, then slowly smiled. "Then I guess I'll just have to make sure you're never scared again." The ship rose above the storm, escaping into the calm of the upper atmosphere. Stars stretched out in every direction, glittering across the black sky. Illyra stood by the window, staring in awe. It was the first time she had ever seen open space without walls around her. She turned to Ryan. "Is this what freedom looks like?" He smiled softly. "Yeah. And it's yours now." She looked back out at the stars, a faint tear shining in her silver eyes. For the first time, she didn't feel like an experiment or a prisoner. She felt alive. But deep in her heart, she knew the Dominion would never stop hunting her. And Ryan Hale, the human who had freed her, had just become the galaxy's newest target. The Endeavor cut through the endless black of space. Stars glittered coldly, distant and unmoving. Ryan Hale tightened his grip on the controls, sweat beading on his forehead despite the ship's temperature control. Illyra sat on the floor, her glowing hands folded in her lap, silent but watchful. She had no memory of life outside the cage, no friends, no family, no place to belong. And yet, she was alive because of him. Ryan kept scanning the sectors for any signs of Dominion drones. His instincts screamed that they were still being hunted. The Dominion did not forgive escaped experiments, especially ones that could unleash raw energy like Elira had. "Where are we going?" she asked quietly. Her voice still had the fragile lilt of someone unused to speaking, but Ryan could sense her fear hiding behind the words. "Somewhere we can hide for now," he said. "I know a few old outposts far from Dominion patrols. We can land there, recover, and plan our next move." Elira nodded but didn't say more. Her glowing veins pulsed faintly with every beat of her heart. Ryan could see the unease in her eyes. Even now she didn't fully trust anyone, and he couldn't blame her. Hours passed as they traveled through uncharted space. Ryan kept the ship in stealth mode, carefully weaving through asteroid belts and using gravity wells to mask their presence. Elira watched quietly, taking in the sight of planets, moons, and cosmic storms she had never seen before. Her fascination was almost childlike, yet tinged with the weight of years spent in captivity. When they finally reached a deserted outpost orbiting a barren planet, Ryan set the ship down gently. The outpost had been abandoned for decades. The walls were corroded and rust covered the floors. It was perfect. Safe for now. Ryan activated the environmental systems, heating the room. "We'll stay here for a while. You need to eat and rest." He opened a small supply locker and offered her a protein pack. She stared at it for a moment, uncertain, then took it carefully with both hands. "You're not going to eat?" she asked. "I already did," he said, smiling faintly. "You need it more than I do." As she ate, Ryan studied her. Elira was more than just an energy conductor. Her reactions to stress, her glowing patterns, even the way she moved, it was clear she could be incredibly powerful but untrained. If the Dominion caught her again, they would use her as a weapon without a second thought. And if she didn't learn to control her powers, she might end up hurting herself. "You have to learn to control it," he said gently. "All that energy you used back there, it's dangerous if you don't know how to manage it." She looked at him wide-eyed. "Dangerous for me?" "For everyone," Ryan said. "You could take out half a fleet if you're not careful." Her silver eyes narrowed, a mix of fear and determination. "Then I must learn." For the next few days, Ryan helped her train. Not in fighting, but in controlling her energy. He guided her through breathing exercises, focusing techniques and small bursts of power. At first, her hands would flare uncontrollably, setting panels on fire or cracking the metal floor, but slowly she began to gain control. Her glowing veins pulsed in harmony with her breath instead of reacting to every emotion. During their sessions, Ryan learned more about her. She had been created to be a living power source for the Dominion's war machines. Her memory was fragmented, but flashes remained. Brief images of cold labs, cruel scientists, and endless tests. Every memory made her shiver. "I don't understand," she said one night, staring out at the black void from a small viewport. "Why did you help me?" "You don't even know me," Ryan shrugged, sitting beside her. "Maybe because I've seen too much suffering. Maybe because no one deserves to be locked in a cage. And maybe because I don't want to live in a universe where people like them can decide who lives and who dies." She looked at him for a long time. Something unspoken passed between them. It was not friendship, not yet, but a bond stronger than words. A trust born in the middle of danger. Their quiet moments were shattered when the ship's sensors picked up a Dominion scout approaching the system. Ryan cursed. "They never stop?" Elira's hands glowed faintly. "I can fight," she said, her voice firm. "I will not let them take me." Ryan shook his head. "Not yet. You're still weak from everything. We can't risk it, but the scout was too fast." Within minutes, a small fleet of drones had surrounded the outpost. Ryan activated the ship's defensive shields and prepared for evasive maneuvers. Elira stood beside him, trembling but resolute. Ryan grabbed her hand briefly. "Stay close. I've got you." The Dominion drones fired, and the Endeavor twisted and rolled, dodging beams of plasma. Ryan's training as a pilot and soldier was pushed to the limit. But every time a shot came too close, Elira's energy flared automatically, forming a protective blue shield around the ship. Ryan realized she could defend them, but only if he helped her focus. "Concentrate," he shouted. "Focus on me, not the fear." Her glowing eyes met his. Slowly, the chaotic sparks of energy around her stabilized, forming a solid barrier around the ship. The drones were repelled, their sensors fried by her uncontrolled but brilliant power. One by one, they broke formation and retreated. When it was over, Ryan let out a long breath. "Good work," he said, though he knew she didn't understand fully. She was scared and exhilarated all at once. I didn't mean to, she whispered. You don't have to mean it, he said gently. You just have to survive. That's what matters. In the days that followed, they repaired the Endeavor and explored the outpost. Elira was learning quickly. Her energy could power systems, heal damaged circuits, and even manipulate small machinery. Ryan realized that with her abilities controlled, they could be nearly unstoppable. But he also knew the Dominion would not give up easily. They would come back stronger and faster. One night, as Ryan repaired the ship's communications array, Elira approached him. She was quieter than usual, her hands glowing faintly. Ryan, what will happen if they come again? They'll try, he said. But we'll be ready. Together. She looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the faint lights of the ship. I trust you, she said softly. Ryan smiled. And I trust you. That's all that matters. They spent the rest of the night preparing traps, studying Dominion tactics, and practicing her control. Slowly, Elira's fear began to turn into confidence. She realized she was no longer a prisoner. She was alive, and she had a choice now, a chance to be more than a weapon. Days turned into weeks. The outpost became their home, a small sanctuary in the cold emptiness of space. Ryan and Elira developed a rhythm. She learned to control her powers, and he learned to understand her thoughts, her hesitations, and her courage. They trained together, laughed quietly at mistakes, and shared stories of what life had been like before the Dominion. Then one day, a faint signal appeared on the scanner, a distress call from a nearby colony under Dominion attack. Elira's eyes glowed instinctively. We can help them, she said. Ryan hesitated. It's risky. The Dominion might trace it back to us. She looked at him firmly. We have to. We cannot let them hurt innocent people like they hurt me. Ryan nodded slowly. He realized that she was more than a survivor. She was a fighter, and with her by his side, maybe, just maybe, they could make a difference. They prepared the ship for departure. As the Endeavor lifted off the planet, Ryan looked at Elira. Ready? She nodded, glowing faintly with controlled energy. Ready. As they jumped into hyperspace, leaving the icy wasteland behind, Ryan felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. They were small, just two against a galaxy full of enemies, but they had each other. And that, Ryan knew, was enough to change everything. The Dominion would hunt them, that was certain. But Ryan and Elira had survived the impossible before, and now they would fight back together, for freedom, for life, and for a chance to define their own destinies. No cage, no chains, no fear could hold them again. And somewhere deep in the dark reaches of space, their story was only beginning.